Hello everyone, welcome back to my math channel. For today's video teaching, I will focus on one of the important topics in Form 4 Mathematics syllabus. This topic is graph motion. So for graph motion, actually we have two parts. So today I will focus on one part, which is distance times graph. Alright, so you need to follow well the concept behind the distance time graph. Alright, let's get started with the class now. Before we start the lesson, I would like to give you a simple quiz. So let's enjoy the quiz and have fun. Now, please try to answer this question. Which of the following is a quadratic expression? So, is it A, 2x plus 3 equal to 16? Or B, 5y squared plus 3y minus 9 equal to 0? And C, 2x cubed plus 11 equal to 9? And D, 6p minus 3q equal to 11? So, may I know your answer? I'm sure you will say answer is B, but I think there is no answer for this question because for B is actually a quadratic equation. Unless there is no equal to 0, then it will be quadratic expression. So for this one, there is no solution, okay? So make sure you know what is quadratic equation and what is quadratic expression. Unless the question say which of the following is quadratic equation, then the answer will be B. But because the question is asking expression, so there is no answer for this question. Alright? Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. So now you need to name three-dimension solid as shown below. So you have cube, right? You can see there is a cube there. All right, and then you also can see cylinder, right? Also, you will see cuboid and pyramid. Okay, not prism, it's a pyramid. And finally, you can see there is a cone. All right, so all these are three dimensions solid. So you must know how to find the volume for each of the three dimension solid. All right, for cube is all the side, cube, side times side times side. For the cylinder is pi r square h. And then for the cuboid is the base, which is length times width times the height. Alright, for volume we always find the base times with the height. Okay, so for the pyramid we have the square base times with the height. Okay, so it depends on the base. Okay, and then we have the formula for the volume of the pyramid is 1 over 3a times the h, right? And for cone is 1 over 3 pi r square h, because the base is a circle, so it's 1/3 pi r square times with the height of the cone. Okay, understand? And for the cylinder, because the base is a circle, so it's pi r square times with the height. Conclusion is the volume for the any solid is always base area times with the height. Okay, so that's revision for the three dimension solid. Okay, let's proceed to the next slide. Have fun. Now, which of the following is not prime number? So I'm sure you know the answer. Is it A 7 or B 2, C 9, D 3? So your answer is, of course, is C, right? 9. Okay, so that is the right answer. Very good. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. How about this one? Name both of the shapes given. Okay, so your answer is sphere and hemisphere, right? Sphere for the ball and the hemisphere for the watermelon. Alright. Now let's get started with the class. Interpretation of the distance time graph. For distance time graph, you must know that vertical axis is distance. It can be in kilometer or meter, and the horizontal axis is actually time in hour, okay, and the gradient represent speed, okay. The gradient of the straight line for distance time graph represents speed. So for the distance time graph, vertical axis represent distance and the horizontal axis represent time. So gradient represents rate of change of distance with respect to time, which is speed. Gradient is speed for distance time graph. Please remember that gradient it represents speed. So let's interpret the distance time graph. For distance time graph, the vertical axis is distance and the horizontal axis must be time. And if you're having the line like this, it shows that the gradient is positive and the speed is actually uniform. So we call as uniform speed. Alright, for this graph, it seems like the line is going down. So we have negative gradient. So the line is slanting to the left. So we say it is actually negative gradient and the speed is uniform. So it shows that the particle go back to the original point or the starting point. For this one, distance time graph, it seems like the object is at stationary or stop or there's no movement for the horizontal path. For this distance time graph, we have the positive gradient, okay, followed by we have the horizontal gradient, and also we have the negative gradient. Okay, so this is actually the graph consists of three parts with the different gradient. So you have learned this triangle in your lower form, triangle DST. The D means, it doesn't mean dia suka tidur. The D means distance, and the S means speed, and the T means time. So from the triangle, it's actually telling you how to recall the distance, okay, time, and the speed formula. So there is a relationship between them. That means if I ask you to give me the speed, you must tell me its distance over time. And if I ask you the time, you must say distance over speed. Alright? And if I ask you distance, you must say speed times the time. So it consists of three formula. Alright? So please remember this DST formula, or dia suka tidur formula, to calculate the distance and speed and the time. Let's see example 1. Given graph distance time of a car, calculate speed in the first 4 seconds. B. Calculate rate of change of distance for the last 6 seconds. And for C, interpret the movement of the particles for the duration of 6 seconds. You must state 3 key points when you are interpreting the graph. The first point is distance, followed by speed and the time taken. So when you do the calculation, you need to highlight the path of the line. Example, the first 4 seconds, you have to identify the vertical distance over the horizontal distance, or you can label the point. There are two ways. Either you want to label the point, you can label the point as 0,5 and then 417, and based on that 2 points you can find the gradient for the green line shown on the graph. For this one, distance time graph, okay, you're asking to find the speed for the last 6 seconds. So I actually highlight in green color, and you have to find the 2 points and then find the gradient. So we have the higher point is 417 and the lower point on the x-axis is 10, 0. So remember, all the point lies on the x-axis, the y must be 0. For example 2, given the distance time graph of a car, calculate speed in the first 4 seconds. B. Calculate rate of change of distance for the last 5 hours. And C. State the duration in hours when the car stops. So you have to study the graph. We have part A and part B and part C. So you have to identify the path of the line, okay, so that you can answer accordingly. All right. For the red line is actually, if you want to find the speed, you must focus to the red line speed for the first 4 seconds. all right? And then from 4 to 6, okay, the particle is actually stopped, the car is stopped. And then for the last 5 seconds, you can see there is the initial speed and the final speed. So actually you can find the gradient, and it's expected that the gradient will be negative, right? Okay, so this is about the interpretation of the graph. Okay, let's appreciate the beauty of mathematics. So we are going to solve the problems involving distance time graph. Given the distance time graph for the movement of a particle, cancel out one of the A, spelling error. The particle moved from point O to R in 120 minutes. So state the duration in minutes when the object stopped instantaneously. Okay, at that moment, the particle will stop, and then calculate the speed in kilometer per hour when object move from O to B. And then finally, find the distance in meter traveled by the particle in the last 40 minutes. Okay, so I hope that you will copy down all these questions and try to attempt on your own. Okay. So for this distance time graph, the part PQ showing that the object stopped. Let's read through the question. Given the distance time graph of a car, calculate the speed in the first 20 minutes, and B, rate of change of distance in the last 30 minutes, and C, the average speed in kilometer per hour. Again, I'm showing you the path whereby the object stop, or we can say there is a zero distance, or you can say that is actually particle at stationary. Let's study the question. Given distance time graph of a motorbike. Okay, based on the graph given after this, calculate the speed in the first 3 seconds, and B, rate of change of distance in 7 seconds, and C, duration of time when the speed of particle is 0. The graph still showing the object stop at the path which is horizontal is actually 0 speed. By using the other formula, which is called as intercept form, the straight line that intersect the x-axis and the y-axis, we can use this formula. This formula actually is connect the gradient to the y-intercept and x-intercept. So the formula is gradient equal to negative, make sure you put negative, y-intercept over x-intercept. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. Alright, for the gradient of a straight line, we can obtain the gradient of a straight line using 2 points given. So we have point Q, which is 4, 6. Alright, and then we have point P, which is actually 1 and 2. So you can find the gradient. Okay, then we can actually use the other formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or maybe you can work out on the diagram, because the concept of gradient is you have to take the vertical length over the horizontal length, and if it is going down, then you have to put negative. If it is going up, then you have to leave it in positive. Alright, so you look at the point P and point Q, and you try to work out the gradient. So the coordinate Q is 6 minus 2, that is 4. And then the time taken actually is from x1 to x2. So you can just take 4 minus out the 1. So the horizontal distance is 3 and the vertical distance is 4. Hence the gradient is 4 over 3. Okay, So it's positive because the line is going up. Now, please calculate the gradient for the straight line that passes through the points given. So I leave it for you to try. For A, you need to find the gradient PQ. For B, you have to find the gradient AB. And for C, you have to find the gradient AB. And finally, you have to find the gradient for ST. Alright? Now we can also use the gradient by looking at the intercept. So the gradient for the intercept form is m equal to negative b over a. So that is so-called the gradient of the straight line. So you using the y-intercept over the x-intercept. And please don't forget you must have a negative. Alright. For this question, they gave you the y-intercept, the x-intercept, and you're asking to find the gradient. So you use a gradient equal to negative, okay? You can write as negative b over a, or you can say is the length of the uh, vertical part over the length of the horizontal part. Okay, so that is so-called gradient in terms of the x-intercept and y-intercept. There are four types of the gradient of the straight line. Type 1 is negative gradient, type B is zero gradient, and type C is undefined gradient. And finally, we can have a positive gradient, which is very common. And for undefined gradient, we can call as infinity gradient. Now, for the horizontal line, the gradient obviously is 0. So you can see that you take y minus y2 minus y1. So 4 minus 4, you get 0 over 8. So the gradient is equivalent to 0. Now let's try this one for vertical line. If you take the y2, which is 10, minus y1, which is 5, 10 minus 5, and then you notice that when the x2 minus x1, you will get 0. So when you have m equal to 5 divided by 0, so this is actually undefined gradient. Now let's have a look at this one. The line slanted to the right. So the gradient is 10 minus 7, which is 3. And then for the x2, which is 3 minus x1. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So the gradient is positive because the line is slanted to the right. The line slanted to the left, so let's find the gradient. y2 is 8 minus y1, 4, over x2 is 1 minus x1, which is 5. So your answer is 4 over negative 4. So the gradient is negative 1, and it belongs to negative gradient because the line is slanted to the left. Now let's observe the line and state type of gradient of the straight lines below. So we have red line AB. What type of gradient? Is it positive? Right? It's a positive gradient because the line is slanted to the right. And then for blue line, the PQ, the gradient is undefined gradient, right? And for ST, the line is actually slanting to the left, so it's having negative gradient. And then for the green line is actually horizontal line, so the gradient is equal to 0. So these are the 4 types of gradient of straight lines. When the lines are collinear, it means that the point A, point B, and point C are lying on a straight line. So collinear means they are lying on a straight line. Okay, so the gradient for path AB, should be equal to the gradient of the straight line BC. So when you have the collinear, it means a gradient for the line A to B is equal to the gradient of line B to C, and you can say it's the same with the gradient from A to C. Alright, so collinear means they are having the same gradient. Besides collinear, we also have the parallel. When two lines are parallel, it means they are having the same gradient. Okay, remember parallel means same gradient. So for today's homework, I just prepared 3 questions for you. So the first question is, prove that the points P, -1, -2, Q, 2, 4, and the point R, 6, 12 are collinear. So how are you going to prove them? So please do this in your exercise book. Alright, okay, let's see the next question. For this one, also you need to do in your exercise book. Points P, 1, 2, points Q, -2, 8, and point R, H, 14 are collinear. So you have to find the value of H. The final question is, you need to prove that ABCD is a parallelogram. So you need to sketch out the parallelogram and try to show the step to support your answer that ABCD is a parallelogram. So please enjoy your homework. Have fun. Till then, I shall see you in my next video teaching. Bye bye. Have a nice day.